Ladies and gentlemen, absolutely. Here's a Jessica style intro, confident, emotionally resonant, a bit fierce, and deeply real. You ever wonder why the second she pulls away just a little you start chasing like your life depends on it? Why suddenly, the woman you weren't even sure about becomes the only one you can think of? Let's be honest, when she was available, consistent, and open with her heart, you were half in, but the moment she starts acting unsure, distant, maybe even cold, you light up. You feel something, that ache, that urgency, that obsession. This speech isn't just about relationships, it's about you, your patterns, your psychology, your unhealed wounds, because the truth is, it's not really about her being unsure. It's about what her distance activates inside of you, and I'm here to break it all the way down. When someone is unsure about us, it creates a psychological tension that many confuse for love, but in reality, it often triggers emotional addiction. It's not that she became more special overnight, it's that her uncertainty activated a part of you that's addicted to seeking approval, clarity, and validation. When someone pulls back, it creates a gap between what we want and what we're getting, and that gap creates anxiety. The brain responds to that anxiety by trying to resolve it, and it does so by pushing you to get closer to the source of the inconsistency. That's not love, that's a chemical chase. You become addicted to the emotional high of unpredictability, the roller coaster of highs and lows. One day she texts back instantly, and your heart races. The next day, silence, and you spiral. This cycle mirrors the exact mechanics of addiction: anticipation, reward, withdrawal, and craving. Many people fall into this trap without realizing it because emotional addiction hides behind the mask of passion. You start believing that your intensity means you've found something real, something rare. But it's not depth, it's drama. You start mistaking the intensity of your feelings for the intensity of a connection. You assume that because you're thinking about her nonstop, you must be falling harder than ever. But it's not about her. It's about what her behavior is doing to your inner world. It's about the push and pull that keeps you emotionally destabilized enough to crave more. When she's unsure, you stop feeling in control. You stop feeling chosen. That sense of emotional unavailability makes you feel like you need to do more, be more, win her over. That desperation is often rooted in old wounds: rejection, abandonment, unworthiness. When someone is consistent, present, and emotionally available, it doesn't activate that same addictive circuit in the brain. It feels safe, calm, even boring to some. Why? Because we've been conditioned to associate love with longing, safety with stagnation. So when she was into you, fully open and available, you didn't feel the rush. But when she stepped back, when she became unsure, your brain lit up. You started thinking about her every hour, wondering what went wrong, what she's feeling, what you should say. You went from casual to obsessed, and not because anything changed about her character or energy, but because the pattern changed. The inconsistency triggered your emotional alarm system, and now you're chasing peace through a person who isn't giving it to you. This isn't about blaming you, it's about awakening you. Emotional addiction is so normalized that we don't even question it. We call it chemistry, or we say there's just something about her. That something is often your nervous system reacting to unpredictability. Her being unsure reminds your body of emotional danger. It taps into fear-based wiring that tells you, you need this person to feel okay again, but you don't. What you're craving isn't her, it's emotional relief. It's the dopamine hit you get when the uncertain suddenly becomes certain. But here's the catch: that feeling doesn't last. Because once she leans back in, once she becomes sure again, you might lose interest. That alone proves it's not love, it's addiction. Understanding this is the key to breaking the cycle. When you recognize that emotional intensity doesn't equal emotional compatibility, everything starts to shift. You stop confusing anxiety with attraction. You stop chasing people who withhold clarity. You realize that the strongest connections aren't the ones that make you feel unstable, but the ones that bring you peace. When you're in emotional addiction, peace feels foreign, consistency feels suspicious. You may even push away people who are good for you because they don't activate that inner chaos you've come to associate with desire. So when she becomes unsure, your inner addict wakes up. It's not just her pulling back, it's your old wounds stepping forward. You're not in love, you're in a loop. When she becomes unsure, you don't see it as a red flag, you see it as a challenge. You start to equate her hesitation with her being high value, as if her emotional unavailability is a sign that she's better than the ones who gave you their full presence. But what's really happening is much deeper. Her distance is triggering your own sense of inadequacy. Somewhere inside, you believe that love must be earned, not freely received. And when someone makes you feel like you have to prove your worth to be chosen, it lights up every hidden insecurity you've been carrying. It's not her uncertainty that makes you want her more, it's the way it reflects your own uncertainty about whether you are enough. You were likely conditioned to believe that love is conditional. Maybe it started in childhood. Maybe you had to perform to be noticed, achieve to be praised, hide parts of yourself to feel accepted. Now, as an adult, you carry that same belief into relationships. So when someone is fully open with you, it feels almost uncomfortable. Safe love feels unfamiliar, but the moment she steps back, questions you, treats you like an option, suddenly she becomes the goal. You assign value to her based on the difficulty of getting her, not the depth of her character. Her being unsure makes you feel like if you win her over, you'll finally win the battle you've been fighting internally for years. The battle to feel like you're good enough. The truth is, the more emotionally unavailable someone becomes, the more desirable they appear to people who don't yet feel secure in themselves. It's not love, it's a mirror. Her withdrawal exposes the belief inside you that says, I'm only worthy if I'm chosen by someone hard to impress. You think if you can get her to finally say yes, it will mean something about you. It'll mean you're lovable, you're valuable, you're worthy. But that's not her job. No one's certainty about you will ever heal your uncertainty about yourself. That has to be done from the inside out. What happens when someone else is sure of you from the beginning? If you don't believe you deserve that level of love, you'll question it, you'll undervalue it. You might even sabotage it. But when someone plays it cool, shows you mixed signals, acts unpredictable, you chase. Because it feels like home to your nervous system. You're not addicted to her. You're addicted to the hope of being chosen by someone who isn't fully choosing you. That dynamic has nothing to do with compatibility and everything to do with self-worth. You give more power to her indecision than you ever gave to someone's certainty. You interpret her silence as mystery, her coldness as confidence, her inconsistency as depth. But most of the time, it's just emotional unavailability. Still, because of the parts of you that haven't healed, you glamorize the rejection. You turn it into a sign that she's special, when in truth, it might be a sign that she's emotionally closed off, unavailable, or unsure of herself too. But none of that matters to your inner wounded self, because all that part of you sees is a mountain to climb. And if you reach the top, maybe it means you're finally enough. It's dangerous to confuse someone's lack of interest or emotional clarity with superiority. The reason her distance hits you so hard isn't because she's rare. It's because it confirms the fear that's been inside you all along, the fear that you're not worthy of being loved unless you prove yourself. You want her more when she's unsure because part of you still believes you're only lovable when you fight to be loved. You mistake emotional challenge for emotional value because you haven't yet learned that the greatest love doesn't come through struggle, it comes through self-respect. When she questions you, it makes you question yourself, not because she holds the truth, but because you've placed your worth in someone else's hands. The chase is intoxicating because it makes you feel like you're in control. When she pulls back or shows uncertainty, your ego gets triggered, not your heart. What hurts is not the potential loss of love, it's the blow to your sense of importance. You start wondering what changed, why her energy shifted, and how you can fix it. You don't realize it at first, but most of what you're chasing isn't the woman, it's the feeling of being wanted again. The ego feeds on attention, affirmation, and the idea of being chosen, and when those things are taken away, it doesn't quietly retreat, it fights harder. The chase becomes about restoring what the ego believes was taken unfairly. It's no longer about connection, it's about conquest. This is why so many people confuse obsession for love, because love is steady, secure, and mutual. But ego-driven desire is loud, erratic, and unstable. It thrives in spaces where clarity is missing. When she was open with her feelings, things felt predictable. Your ego was satisfied, so you didn't feel the need to fight for anything. But the moment her interest wavered, the ego saw a threat. That threat wasn't about losing someone aligned with your soul. It was about losing the image you had of yourself as someone who was wanted, admired, pursued. Now, with her pulling away, your mind becomes fixated not on the relationship but on restoring that image. You want to prove you can get her back, you want to win. What many people don't realize is how easily the ego disguises itself as romantic effort. You start convincing yourself that you're being loyal, persistent, even noble for chasing someone who isn't sure about you. But deep down, your energy isn't fueled by genuine love, it's fueled by pride. You want to feel powerful again. Her uncertainty made you feel small, and now every text, call, or gesture is designed to restore that sense of control. But love is not about control. Love doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't need to be earned by convincing someone to stay. The moment you start chasing someone who's unsure about you, you stop listening to your own emotional needs. You override your desire for peace, stability, and emotional safety just to get the high of being validated again. You stop asking, "Do I even feel safe with her?" and start asking, "What can I do to make her want me again?" That switch is a dangerous one because it pulls you into a dynamic where your worth becomes dependent on someone else's decision. And the more you chase, the less you see clearly. You stop noticing the red flags. You stop noticing how emotionally unavailable she really is. All you see is the challenge. All you feel is the ego's need to win. This is where so many people get stuck. They stay in unhealthy dynamics not because they're truly in love, but because walking away would feel like defeat. The ego hates to lose, so it convinces you to hold on, to fight harder, to interpret her mixed signals as signs of hidden feelings instead of signs of indecision. And every breadcrumb she throws your way feels like a reward, reinforcing the chase even more. But what you're really doing is feeding an illusion. You're feeding a version of yourself that only feels worthy when someone else says so. The ego chase is addictive. It gives you small hits of dopamine every time she responds, every time she shows even the slightest interest. But those hits fade fast. They leave you needing more. And before you know it, you're in a cycle where your happiness is determined by whether or not she texts you back. That's not love, that's dependency. That's emotional gambling. You put your self-worth on the line every day, hoping she'll validate you again, and when she doesn't, you spiral, not because your soul lost a connection, but because your ego lost its grip. When someone pulls their attention away, it's easy to start believing that you care more than you actually do. The truth is, when she stops giving you the validation you were used to, your desire doesn't come from love. It comes from a sense of emotional deprivation. You don't miss her presence as much as you miss what her presence made you feel about yourself. And when that validation is removed, what fades along with it is your interest, your focus, and your so-called desire. This shows something most people don't want to admit, that your attachment was never rooted in authentic connection, but in what she symbolized for your self-worth. This is why relationships that begin with intensity and chase often crash just as hard. When she's uncertain about you, when she gives you breadcrumbs or mixed signals, your mind goes into overdrive. You read into every message, every delay, every shift in tone. But that heightened attention isn't the result of love. It's a reaction to emotional scarcity. It's your nervous system trying to reclaim safety through control. You start thinking about her more not because of the depth of what you share, but because she's become emotionally unavailable, and your inner wounds are trying to fix the story. You want her to want you so that you can feel like you're enough. You believe if you can just get her back into that state of certainty, everything will settle. But the second she becomes consistent again, the spell breaks. The tension disappears, and with it, your interest often fades. This cycle is more common than people realize. You say you want love, but you're drawn to emotional chaos. You say you want connection, but you chase inconsistency. The truth is, most of your desire has been programmed to respond to rejection and unpredictability. When someone gives you their full energy, it doesn't spark obsession, it creates peace. But if you've been conditioned to confuse anxiety with attraction, peace won't feel satisfying. It will feel boring. So when she becomes unsure about you, it triggers your instincts. You go from passive to passionate, from casual to committed, not because of her depth or uniqueness, but because the threat of emotional rejection has suddenly made her feel valuable. Real desire is different. Real desire doesn't disappear when you feel secure. It deepens, it grows. It doesn't require the drama of distance to stay alive. If your interest fades the moment she becomes available, that's not desire, that's the end of the high. You weren't in love, you were in pursuit. You were addicted to what her hesitation made you feel, not who she actually was. And once she stepped forward and said, "I want this too," the chase lost its purpose. The illusion cracked. Now you're left with the reality of the connection, and for many people, that's when the passion evaporates. This is why it's so important to look at what kind of love you're really chasing. Do you want depth, or do you want drama? Do you want consistency, or do you only get excited when it feels uncertain? Her uncertainty awakened something inside you, but that something wasn't romantic. It was psychological. It was your old programming being activated. It was your ego trying to restore itself. It was your unhealed need to earn love playing itself out once again. And now that the emotional challenge is gone, so is the illusion of intense desire. The moment you no longer feel the need to win someone over, you get a clearer view of your true feelings. If your desire weakens with their certainty, then what you had wasn't rooted in love. It was rooted in the validation game. You weren't seeing her clearly. You were seeing a version of yourself you wanted to feel like again. So when that version faded, so did your effort. That's not a reflection of her, but of the emotional role she was unknowingly filling for you. And once that role wasn't needed, the emotional drive disappeared.